They're missing this whole piece and just going right back to workouts and nutrition. You add HRT, but you have a messed up gut, you're gonna have more problems.
Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with Natalie Jill, and I'm so excited to bring her to the channel because I followed Natalie probably in my early days when I started my fitness journey 15 plus years ago. In my opinion, you're one of the front leaders in bringing women's fitness over 40 to mainstream. It was very male dominated, or like as bodybuilding.
Yeah.
You were leading kind of the space also when it came to like digital products and stuff and getting fitness out there for women. You have since launched multiple brands. It has a podcast, Midlife Conversations.
Yes.
If you guys don't follow her on Instagram, YouTube, podcast, Natalie Jill. You've also been on multiple covers, fitness covers.
Not recently, but yes, in my 40s.
Yes, in her 40s. So first cover model photo was in your 40s.
Yes, all of them were.
She's someone I think to really look to for when it comes to 40s plus fitness and honestly like the basics. We were talking about basics and we'll get into that today, but she has just really reinvented herself sort of later in life. And then now in your 50s, you're 55.
Almost 55, yeah.
Almost 55. I think you said your birthday's next month?
September 2nd.
Yes. Turning 55 and really just starting the conversations that's really important for women in fitness, not just for the aesthetic aspect, but just living well, longevity, all the things.
I love it.
When you started your fitness journey, you were in your 30s.
Yeah, it's funny that you said I was one of the original people with fitness over 40 because I'm just like everybody else. I was not a fitness expert, but what happened was when I was 35, for the first time in my life, I became very out of shape, depressed, broke. I had all these circumstances hit me at one time. Who I was at 35 is definitely not who I am now, but at that time I was a new single mom. I was going through a divorce. I had lost my house. I had massive postpartum depression. It was this first experience of being out of control in my own body and in my life. Fitness and eating well is what got me back. And it's right about the time that Facebook was born. Like everyone was just starting to get on Facebook. And I remember having lunch with one of my friends that I'd grown up with. And she said, "Are you on Facebook?" I'm like, "Facebook, what is that?" I remember getting on that day. And one of the very first posts I ever made on there was, okay, I don't know who's on here. I think I have like 100 high school friends.
Yeah.
And I said, but I'm going through a really weird time in my life. And I'm going to start sharing here what I eat and what I'm doing to get back on track. And I'm going to post here for accountability. So I wasn't even posting or sharing for it to give anyone information. I was doing it for my own self, for accountability. But what's interesting is that realness and that sharing drew in a lot of other women walking through what I was walking through. Because I shared everything. I shared I take pictures of my food and say, this is what that was like the original what I'm eating poster.
Yeah.
But what happened was, as I was sharing that and started having people follow along, it sparked this interest to not only push myself further in those fitness goals, but to help others. That's how it started.
But you had a career in something else before. What were you doing before?
I was literally in medical sales, like corporate sales, had nothing to do with anything with fitness or nutrition, but I was a salesperson. So, and I say that as a positive thing, because I think sales is actually helping people. It's people that solve problems. And so when I started having this following of women that wanted to understand the journey and change, that light bulb went off with, okay, wait a minute, maybe this is a career, maybe this is a way I can help them and also create something for my family.
Yeah, because back then that was when like ebooks were really popular. And
I was like one of the first
This is
ebooks.
pre-apps.
Yeah.
We're going to date ourselves a lot right now because this was like pre-apps. There was no Instagram.
None of that. There was Facebook. And I remember reaching out to a friend of mine, Clark Bartram. He's like in his 60s. He's a fitness icon. But I remember reaching out to him and he said, you should make an ebook. And I was like, I don't even know I remember looking up what's an ebook. I'm like, electronic. So my very first product I ever sold was a $12 ebook, recipe book that I made on my BlackBerry phone. And I didn't have a sales page. I didn't have anything. I just posted and said, these are the recipes that I'm eating. This is what I've been sharing. And if you want it, basically send me an email and I would send them back a PayPal link and they would send me their $12 and I would send them the file.
Oh my gosh.
That was my first product.
That's so cool. So how much weight did you lose in your first fitness journey?
So I had gained 60 pounds when I was pregnant and I'm 5'2". And that was a lot. And that was me basically eating McDonald's when I was pregnant, just feeling depressed and overwhelmed with what was going on in my life. So that first journey was just releasing that, but it wasn't just releasing it, it was how I did it, which was what I think was so interesting to women. So I brought up that I was in a lot of circumstances. And I think this is very relevant now that when we're in circumstances in our life, setbacks, whatever those are, injuries, things financial, which is whatever those setbacks are, we tend to operate from all the bad things that we're experiencing. So we think I'm overweight, I'm broke, and it's very hard to get motivated from that place. When I was going through that and I was in those circumstances, the pivotal moment was making a decision that I wanted something different for my life and actually thinking through what that vision would be. And I started operating from that place. And that is truly what started to change things. So it wasn't that I just lost weight. It was I started learning about nutrition. I became a licensed master sports nutritionist. I started learning about training. I became a functional fitness trainer. I dove in as if I was that future version of myself. And that is ultimately what changed me initially.
Do you think a lot of women have a hard time doing that?
Yeah.
Like visualizing that?
They do. And that's the most important step. You know, I take it all the way up to now being almost 55 and the other things I've gone through, I have to remind myself that whenever there's circumstances or setback, I have to still ask myself, okay, but if I wasn't in these circumstances or in these setbacks, the future version of me that I want to be, what would that girl, what would she have to learn, eat, do, understand?
Yeah.
Because it's acting as that future version of you that actually changes you.
I find that a lot of people have a hard time stepping into that version
They
or
do.
believing that's possible. And so they stay stuck in these negative thought patterns. Nothing's changing, nothing's changing.
right.
So I'm like, what is it that gets somebody to, like, what is it that
It's
makes
a decision.
that change?
It's literally
Right.
a decision.
Like
so that is the first thing that has, and if you're listening right now and you're like, well, that's me, and or you don't understand. I've tried everything. You don't understand. That's the line, right? They haven't tried everything if they haven't decided what I'm about to say. So you can make a new decision every minute of every day. So you're either deciding that you're this broken version of you, or you're deciding that you're going to have a new possibility, a new outcome. You can constantly decide that that's going to be a different story. If I'm saying that and you start saying, no, but I have, or you're not listening to what I'm saying.
Exactly.
There. It's literally making a new decision. That is, I've decided this is the year that I'm going to get fit, or I've decided I'm going to get my blood sugar under control this year. I've decided that I'm going to change careers. I've decided that I'm moving to another state. I've decided that I'm going to fix my relationship. Whatever, you can decide. Or you can decide that life sucks and you're going to stay in your circumstance.
I always say that we always focus on the wrong D. So discipline. Discipline is the word that everyone focuses on, and what they need to focus on is like the second that you make a decision is the second you'll have no problem being disciplined.
So if you ask any successful person in anything, like successful with their health and body or their business, just anything in life, if you ask them, you'll uncover that they made a decision and they were very clear on the vision. Not the how, but the vision.
Because it all will sort itself out after that. Was it difficult to switch into a fitness career? Like, did you feel like a fraud? Or I think it's a lot of times people think like, oh, this is like not me, or they even if you're not trying to do a career, like so this is something that comes up a lot with my clients, is that when you are in your fitness journey, you're starting, and maybe you're going out with your friends and you're doing this thing, they're like, who do you think you are?
Okay,
right?
I love that
like
question.
that.
Okay, no, because you have to be almost a little delusional about your goals. So I probably am. So when I decide something, I'm embodying that role. And here's the key. If you're telling the truth, like you tell the truth about everything, there is nothing that you'll ever be embarrassed or feel underneath about. What do I mean by that? Like if you're pretending to be something that you're not, like you're sharing something that's not really you, like I see a video that you make and I try to copy your video, that's not authentic. But if I'm sharing what I really am walking through, that is authentic to me. So that's very real. So that doesn't feel uncomfortable. So when I was sharing the fitness stuff, I wasn't saying I'm this huge credentialed fitness person when I wasn't. I was saying I'm a new single mom who's broken out of shape, and this is what I'm figuring out. That's a very different.
And this is what's working for me. And this is.
And I remember in those years, I got recognized by like Greatest and Forbes as one of the top fitness influencers before influencer was even a word. And I remember thinking that was so funny. I was like, wait, what? Like, I'm just like everybody else. I'm just sharing. So I didn't label myself that. Now, today, I can say I've got a top podcast or I'm a best-selling author. That's many years later. I earn those now, but I did not then, so I wasn't acting like I had those.
Do you ever feel like this is so silly? Why would I share this?
I think that's a constant thing. It's not that I think it's silly. I just think other people already know it.
Right. So like everyone just knows, like everyone does this.
Yes. And then I have to remember that that's not true, because I'll share something so simple and people are like, that really helped me.
That's actually something I've had to work through, because I think that everything I do is very normal. And I had a business mentor years ago. He's like, Victoria, what you do is not normal. But how you see yourself is totally different, right? So I had to push myself to share, because I'm like, why would someone want to see this? Even today, sometimes I struggle with that.
Because I think our gifts, anyone's gifts, you think You know it's your gift because you think it's so easy. So when it's easy to you and you think everyone knows it, it's usually your gift.
I love that. Remember that, you guys. So fast forward, you ended up getting your first fitness cover at 40, by the way.
Yes, I was in my 40s. So I think I ended up on like 14 covers in my 40s.
That's amazing.
But I remember making that a goal. So 'cause I'm really into, once you decide things, you have to have a goal. And not the how, just the goal. Like, okay, so I don't know how, but I'm getting fit. I remember I was getting abs. I was getting super strong. And one day I was like, you know what? I'm going to be a fitness model. By the way, that does not pay much money.
Right. Just FYI.
And I remember telling some of my friends, and they literally laughed at me. They're like, nobody wants a 40-year-old fitness model. And I was like, but it's a goal. Why wouldn't I? Remember, I met somebody who was an agent, and I ended up taking a few jobs to be a fitness model. And a funny story was, I was still working in corporate America, and I had this job to be on this box of fitness equipment. I did a whole photo shoot up in LA. They filmed me on this exercise equipment, and my boss called me and he's like, hey, I was in Costco and you're like on these boxes on fitness equipment. What's going on here? I remember thinking, I'm in trouble now. I got to figure this out.
You were doing
no,
this,
and I'm
like,
making great money in corporate here, and I'm on a fitness box that probably paid me $100. But I remember it was an accomplishment to me. And then it was, I want to be on a cover. And the very first cover I was ever on was a digital magazine. And that's important to point out because, again, you can't be attached to the how. So my goal was, I'm going to be a fitness model. I'm going to be on covers. I wasn't attached to whose cover or what cover or how that happened. But I remember that meant so much to me. I was so excited. And it was what I did with that cover. It was how I shared it and how that led to other covers, which meant major magazines later. My gosh, I was on the cover of Women's World and Muscle and Fitness Hers and some big magazines later, but I had to say yes to those other things first.
Yeah. It always looks a little bit different than maybe what's in your head.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like Red Book came knocking and put me on their cover. I started on a digital magazine and then ended up on bigger ones.
Most of your fitness journey, it was Bodyweight.
Yeah, it was all Bodyweight, which I've totally changed now. Because I was starting from this place of being overweight and broke and I didn't have anything, I was doing everything from home, mostly. Bodyweight, by the way, can be very challenging. So bodyweight's not just holding cans or doing nothing and doing that. I mean, doing a pull-up is bodyweight, planks are bodyweight, tricep dips are bodyweight. So there's some tough bodyweight exercises, but I made it a point to prove that you could get strong with just your own bodyweight. And I also felt at the time, I feel differently now, but I felt at the time that it was a way to be more in touch with your body and how your body works. Because if you think about it, you're sitting on equipment and you're strapped down on the machine, isolating everything but this one movement. To me, it wasn't very functional. But where bodyweight, you have to be really in tune of how you're feeling things, how things are moving, all of that. So that was like this really important concept that I had. Years later, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think it wasn't hurting anything, but for building glutes and legs and being strong there's really limited stuff you can do with body weight there.
Yeah, I think you got to start somewhere. You know, I have a client that I actually just posted on my social media a couple days ago. Probably still like maybe 10 pounds to lose, but she's lost 40 pounds so far since December. She started with a bench and like a set of 10-pound dumbbells at home. Yeah. That's all she started with 3 days a week. After 3 months, she was like, I'm ready to join a gym. Yeah. You know, and that was up to her. But I think that's what's important for everyone is like your fitness journey doesn't need to look like how I train or how you train right now. I started my fitness journey. I was actually living in La Jolla, the church that's off La Jolla Village Drive. I had a condo rate. I was waiting for my first job after college and I was like putting resumes out there and I was in line at Ralph's that's right there. And there was an Oxygen magazine. And there was a girl on the cover and I was like, how do I get arms like this? I've been working out for years. And I took the magazine and I literally just followed the workout that was in there. And I went down to the little condo's gym that had nothing in it and just followed along as best as I could and modified. But that's where I started. I didn't start with like this crazy gym and this perfect whole setup. It was just like, let me just figure this out.
Now I had worked out my whole life, but never really had focused on building muscle. In fact, in my early 20s, I actually did a fitness competition, but I didn't know what I know now that I did.
So different.
Like one of those, the Try Fitness things where you do athletic and not just posing. Before I came around that, body weight was something I really believed in, but it was also an easy access point for women. Because I always noticed that women have all these excuses like, but I don't have or but I can't. And I thought, well, body weight you can start with and do at home. I just want to be cautious when I say it now because I do think it's misleading to tell a woman now, like you can just do body weight. Yeah. Because one of the most important things you can do with aging is developing your glutes. And I had
lower body in general.
Yes, in general. And you cannot do that with body weight. I mean, it's very, there's only so much air squats you can do.
You're going to max out your potential. And most people, they will build that strength where they say, hey, I think I'm ready for more. Yeah. I'm ready to challenge myself. Yeah, I hope so
but
too.
I didn't until my 50s, honestly. Like I did not touch weights for lower body until I was in my 50s.
You just come do glutes with me.
Yeah, I fit now.
I would love that. That'd be fun. So you've progressed from that. Do you still have clients or programs that are Bodyweight for like beginners?
Gosh, when DVDs were a thing, I still have DVDs out there that are now digital now because I made a bunch of DVDs and a lot of programs that I had then. So those are all still out there. I don't teach that now. So within my programs, I focus more on nutrition and mindset and being a health detective. So workouts are included, but I don't think of myself as like the go-to workout expert anymore.
Yeah. How have you evolved since your 40s? So you're doing this transformation. You launched these brands. You've had other products and stuff, and now you're moving into your 50s. So this was a big question mark for me because when I think the first time I saw your content, I was probably late 20s.
Okay.
Have, followed your journey and everything. Going into my early 30s, I definitely, for like a blip of time, felt like maybe my time is past.
Right.
And ironically, now that I'm 42 now, I'm looking back and I'm like, wow, I've actually made the most progress in my fitness journey since I turned 35.
Totally.
Like literally in the last, I would say 6-7 years. Yeah. It's almost like you're getting from like kindergarten in your fitness journey into like graduating to different levels. Yeah. So you've been a huge inspiration for me on that because obviously, like you said, you're doing this in your 40s and like shattering ceilings basically of what everyone thinks is possible and what you should be able to do. And now you're turning 50. So how has that been for you, like that transition?
So I accidentally got into fitness. Like if you think about how that all happened, I accidentally got into it. I started sharing with women. They followed along. That went from creating recipe books to then DVDs. It happened not intentional. I never said I'm going to be a fitness expert. It was more, I'm going to do this for me. I'm going to share it. And then my problem solving hat went off and I offered it to other women and I solved. But what I found in my early 50s is I started feeling like a fake, not for the reason that you said earlier, but because I was questioning what was happening to my body. So when I hit early 50s, not only hormones declining. I had 2 autoimmune. I started getting injured, lots of injuries, torn bicep.
What autoimmune conditions do you have?
Hashimoto's and celiac. Okay. Not that big of a deal, but still autoimmune.
You still have to,
That I pay attention to. Low thyroid. I started, just lots of things happening there. But then I started having injuries. So it was a torn bicep. It was a ruptured disc in my lower back. Ultimately, a breast implant rupture that I had explanted. So just multiple things started happening. I started questioning why I would be coaching women. I thought, I've got to figure out my own stuff. And I remember even thinking, maybe it's true. Maybe you get older and everything just sucks. I literally remember thinking that.
Don't say that to me.
No, but I don't believe that now. But I thought that. I remember thinking like, maybe that's what happens. Like you just gain weight.
Because people say they go, oh, just wait.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe your metabolism slows down. Maybe you just get injured. This was happening. I gained weight. I was getting injured. I pulled back. I stopped selling all my programs for a while. I paused everything. I relaunched my podcast and called it Midlife Conversations. Selfishly, just like I started my business originally selfishly, because I wanted to learn. I'm like, if I change my podcast to Midlife Conversations, I can interview some of the best experts on these topics and figure out what the heck's happening to me. So that's what I did. So I didn't have a plan to monetize. I didn't have a plan what I was gonna do with clients. I just said, I need to learn. So I shifted podcasts, started doing that. And as I was learning these things, I started changing myself again. Within the last year that I relaunched my programs in a different way from a different place on the other side of all this.
I love that you said that because I've noticed how I've evolved in the fitness space too.
Yeah.
I think that's such a smart way. You're just like being authentic to who you are and what is interesting to you. And I think it's really hard because you have this identity from the past of like, oh, this is me and this is how people know me. And is there an expectation around how they know you versus what are you stepping into now?
Sure.
And being, I think, in some ways a little bit of a newbie.
I hear that question a lot, but it's never actually been a thing for me. Because I feel like when I'm done a chapter, I'm done a chapter.
Like ready to move on.
Yeah, and the only way I know how to be happy and be creative and serve people is if I'm teaching something authentic. So if I'm not actually walking through something, or I haven't just recently mastered it, or I'm not feeling my attention should go there, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Like if someone interviewed me right now on how to get 6-pack abs, like, could I do it? Sure, but it's not like top of mind for me right now. So I want to talk about things that I'm actually walking through and figuring out. So I think to answer that, if you're feeling that way or anyone's feeling that way, I would question more why you're feeling that way. Like, because maybe that's still the season that you're in. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So I don't want to teach those things.
Yeah. So since you stepped into this new chapter, what do you feel like is the greatest change or difference for you? If you were to look back at like early 40s or even in your 30s, like what do you feel like is the most different for you now? And like, I guess maybe your perspective on fitness.
Well, there's a couple things. One, I'll come back to, I've never more than ever believed how important decision and vision is because I said it back then. I don't know that I fully understood it until now, but I've reminded myself like at any given time in your life, you can get yourself out of a circumstance by remembering like, what's my new decision and what's my vision? Those are the two questions. I have changed my view on, I used to literally believe that what you ate and how you moved your body was everything. Like I believed that was everything full hard. I thought no other excuse. Oh my gosh, my slogan was excuses or solutions, you decide. But I just don't believe that anymore because there's too many other pieces to the puzzle. Like your gut is extremely important. Your thyroid is important. Not just your gut biome, your oral biome, that's all connected. We've got to look at toxic load. Like what else is going on in your body that's creating toxic load? You've got to look at hormones. Are you depleted? Should you be replenishing? Are you doing too much, too little? Like there's that, even DNA. There's so many levels to what else is happening that I think it's all just so important.
So looking at it more holistically than just like, okay, just eat healthy.
I wouldn't even know if I would use the word holistically. I'm going to say being a detective. I think we're all a unique person of one. We're all in a science experiment of one.
Yeah.
We are all bio-individual. And I think it's a mistake to think that there's just one plan that fits for every single person because we're all so individual. So I absolutely believe in coaches and plans and all of that, but they still themselves have to take some ownership and be a detective.
100%. Yeah, because you can't just look at just one aspect. Like fitness isn't just, do you go to the gym? I feel like I'm guilty of that too. Back when I was younger, it was like, it just looked like just go to the gym and work out. That's it's like easy
Right,
peasy.
and I thought that too.
And there's so many more things to it.
Yes.
That we just gloss over or we don't think it's that important. I always say like, I'm not the rule maker, I'm just the messenger. Like the stuff that I've learned and discovered or observed with clients and the work that you've done over the years, you're like, actually, this thing is probably worth like digging into. Like there's a clue here. You should go like investigate this.
It's funny that I'm even saying this because I would have not said this 5 years ago or 10 years ago for sure. But a lot of times women will say, I've tried everything, but they've tried everything as far as what's in their brain about nutrition, what they know about workouts. Like I always say, you are living in a body that is a result of all your thoughts and actions up until right now, right here today. So that's what they know. But they're sitting there talking to me and they've got, again, nothing. I had them for 33 years, but they have breast implants. So they're not even thinking possibly could be contributing. They have old root canals in their mouth. They're not thinking. They're telling me they're bloated after eating. They're not thinking they're gut. So they're missing this whole piece and just going right back to workouts and nutrition.
So like look for the clues.
Yeah, look for the clues.
And you may find nothing, right? You may go down that path and find nothing, but I would say probably 9 times out of 10, there's probably...
Yeah. I can tell you when I moved out of a house with mold, had my ruptured implant removed, just doing those two things helped me clean out my gut, everything. I mean, I released like 20 pounds pretty quickly.
I actually want to go back to that, the injury aspect. So you kind of mentioned that already. I know I have a lot of clients and I know a lot of people that follow me that have different injuries that come up, various things, which all can get addressed in some way, shape, or form. But I think the biggest thing is the mindset aspect. So how did you not let that stop you
it's hard.
and like just go screw it, this too late?
I think I had so many that I had so many opportunities to do this because I really do believe that we are such a result of our decision and our vision that I had to catch myself with every injury. What is the doctor telling me this means and what does it actually mean? And I'll give you an example. When I tore my bicep, I was in Costa Rica when it happened. It was a distal bicep tear. And when you tear your bicep, you have to fix that within 2 weeks or you risk not being able to repair it. I didn't even get back into the States till 3-week mark. So when I actually had to confirm that I had torn it, even though it was like right up here, they didn't know if they could fix it. So I went in as a gamble in this surgery. And I remember they were wheeling me in and the surgeon said to my husband and me, I don't know if I could fix this. Like we're going to go in. And my husband said, stop, do not wheel her in there unless you've decided you're going to fix it. Like, don't put that over her. Like it was like a whole thing. So I remember he's like coaching the surgeon to say this. So I went in there, I woke up. It was the most excruciating pain I felt like my arm went through a machete when they're pinning that back together and pulling your tendon back down. But I remember after I got through that pain and everything of that, I realized I couldn't turn my hand. I still can't. This hand does not turn out by itself. And I remember I kept going to physical therapy and trying to get that to work. And the surgeon said to me, you're never going to be able to because I cut the tendon because it had already shriveled up after the surgery. I had to cut the tendon. So you're not going to get your supination back. So, okay, that's a fact. True, I'm not going to get my supination back. But then what does that mean? So this might sound shallow and ridiculous to a lot of people, but to me, it was something. I always did all these chin-ups. It was like a thing. I could knock out, like, my gosh, 30 chin-ups, like nothing. And if you don't have supination, you can't do a chin-up. So I remember having this like, what do you mean I can't do a chin-up? But it's no sooner that I was thinking that, I was like, but I could do a pull-up. I could do it this way.
Yeah.
You know, I just started retraining myself to do it that way eventually. So it's just this little practice of, you might have a fact that's being told to you, like this is the circumstance, that's a fact, but what's another possibility?
Like, what can you do?
But what can you do?
Yeah,
So
I think that's the
can't
best
do
question.
it. Same thing, I had L5S1 ruptured out 8 years ago. Like literally a huge rupture. I had foot drop, my right leg stopped working, had laser endoscopic to remove the rupture. I had 0 disc in my lower back. It started to fuse together, which takes basically, if you look at the arch in someone's back, it takes away that C curve. So because I have no disc there, it's starting to fuse together. Incredibly painful for 8 years. But every single day I would say, okay, I don't want to move because it hurts so bad. But I knew if I did move, I would get myself out of pain. So it was like a decision every day. Well, yeah, I don't want to, but it's the moving that's going to literally get me out of pain.
Yeah.
And that's what I did until I ultimately had a disc replacement a year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How was that?
The best thing I ever did in my life.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think dealing with injuries at this stage, I think the foundational thing is it's such a mindset
Yes.
thing of like, what meaning are you assigning
Yes.
to it? And then what are you going to do next?
So it's interesting how the mindset plays in so many roles. So like for me, back was so painful and every day I would convince myself like, go do this thing. But then it was also the mindset on getting a replacement. Like, well, I've heard that that's bad and you don't want to do that. It was like, but getting past even that made such a big difference. So I think we're also bio-individual and you have to do what you have to do for you. But getting past it is what's the choice. You can either say, you're right, this sucks and be stuck in that, or you could find some other kind of solution.
Yeah. You've been around the fitness industry for 20 years. What do you think is better or worse today in 2026?
Oh my gosh. I don't know that anything's better. I think it's almost worse. I think it's worse because of the information overload. There's
That
always
was actually
been,
going to be my next question.
Yeah. So
Is there better information? Is it worse? Is it more confusing for women these days?
Okay, so my thought is this idea of, I call it one-thingitis. Women have always thought it's one thing. If I just have this one thing. The problem is now we have social media, we have internet, we have all of these things compounding all of this marketing and ideas around different one things. So I think it gets more confusing. And then you start adding peptides into the equation. Yeah.
Are we going to go there?
There's just so much confusion.
Yeah. What you can say on the fitness space and how you can present yourself as an expert. You know, like I said,
Anyone can. And now there's AI people.
Oh my gosh.
Not even real.
You know what's funny is I actually had a client send me a photo the other day of the Golden Girls.
Oh yeah.
And she was like, oh, what if they just had modern day like hair?
Yeah.
And I was like, you need to look closer at the photo. Like all of their jaw lines are better. Their skin is smooth.
Yeah.
Like whoever did this, it wasn't.
Yeah.
She's like, AI is getting so good. I'm like, we've had Photoshop for 20 years.
Yeah.
People have been bringing in waist, changing faces for years. We don't need AI for that. But at the same time, I feel like what people can just put online as if they know what they're talking about or they're experts in something or like they have this one solution for you. And I'm like, as soon as you hear someone say, oh, it's just this, that's probably a red flag.
Yeah, because it's never just one thing. So I think have things come a long way in some ways. I don't think it's helping us though. I think
it's crazy because I feel like there's more access to information.
Yeah.
Someone maybe wouldn't have access to your content or to a coach. Like I have clients all over the world, right? So they wouldn't have access to even this without social media. But at the same time, they've got to somehow comb through the noise to find you. And then there's going to be somebody else who just kind of popped up onto the scene, you know, last year that is like an expert, a coach, a gut health,
it's true,
something with their supplement or whatever they're pushing, right? The peptides.
Yeah. I don't know that I have a full, I think it's gotten crazy. I think there's just too much information overload. One of the things that I work with women on is just simplifying and cutting through the noise. Like if it doesn't sound like common sense and it's not something you can do for life, then I wouldn't even listen to the information.
Yeah.
Like for example, not to pick apart any particular thing, but I'm just going to do it right now. Like let's just talk about carnivore for a second. Do I think carnivore is bad? Everything's in it. It depends. It depends. If you're doing an elimination diet and try to figure out and stop, it could be great. Is it the diet for you for the rest of your life? I don't think so. Probably not, because where are your phytonutrients? Where are your like? There's there's a whole other host of questions, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily evil. So I think the problem is everyone still wants this one thing itis. Like, what's the one thing? And then you just compound that with information overload. It's just crazy. And if it doesn't sound simple and if it doesn't sound like something you can do the rest of your life, you have to question it.
Yeah. And like, what's your motive for doing that? Do you think that's going to be your fat loss?
Right.
Like magic pill. We talked about this with earlier before we started the camera is like HRT.
Yeah.
Like, is it replenishing or is it something that you think is going to just magically fix your composition? And
the only thing that's going to magically
you don't have
fix
to do
your
anything else
is AI editing to make it look like you're something else. That's about it.
Yeah, but like
Until
what you said,
filters are real life.
there's the multiple facets of all the things you need to look at, and just doing this one thing isn't going to completely radically change your health.
No.
You still have to.
For example, you add HRT, but you have a messed up gut, you're going to have more problems. You add HRT and you're not eating well, you're going to have other problems. You add HRT and your thyroid's not optimized. So I love HRT. I'm a huge fan of it, but everything else is dialed in too.
Yeah. So understanding like, what is this addressing and why and the timing of it. And also saying, okay, well, this is just one piece of the puzzle that you have to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fitness industry is a wild space right now.
And I just feel like I'm kind of out of the loop with the fitness industry. Like you asked me earlier, like, how do you stay focused on what you do and not get caught up in, I don't think I look at other people's stuff. I just don't, because it distracts me and it confuses me and it has me question things then. So I just stay focused on what I'm working on and sharing that and interacting with my audience, and that's what I do.
What advice would you give like 40-year-old Natalie? Like when you think back about yourself when you were like getting that first magazine cover.
When it comes to health or business or what?
Health. Well, we could do both. We could do both.
Okay, for health, I would say be more aware of true health. And what do I mean by that? Like I think I did a lot of things because I could, like, oh, I can do 35 pull-ups, or I could, I would like just do these tricks on the rings, but I would skip the warm-up, or I would skip the true muscle development in some area. Like if I could go back and build my glutes at age 40 when it was a lot easier, I wish I would have done that, because it's a lot harder to build that at 55 than it was at 40. I would have said build more muscle for sure, take that more seriously, be more functionally fit. A lot of those injuries didn't have to happen. I think about when I ruptured my disc, I was on set for 9 hours jumping. Like, why was I doing that? So I would say be more aware of that, because how you're hurting your body and affecting it now in your 40s is going to really show up in your 50s. So I would say that as far as the health, wish I would have been more aware of gut health and how that impacts. Oh my gosh, think about it, the breast implants. I had them 5 times. Why? Why did I have them 5 times? I should have taken them out after the first rupture or the first.
Oh, they've ruptured before.
Yeah, I have rupture, I had capsular contracture, I had all kinds, and I didn't listen to my body. I was like, oh, it's stupid. I just want to fix it. So I would have liked to have addressed that a lot earlier.
Yeah.
I don't think that I needed to put my body through that many times. As far as business, that's a hard one, because I have the practical answer and then I have my personality. The practical business answer is stick with one thing and stay focused on one thing and keep repeating that, because that's how you really truly create wealth in business. But the ADHD creative brain doesn't want to do that. So I didn't. And I don't know that I would tell myself to do that.
When you say one thing, do you mean one industry or one product line? Or do you mean...
like if you really look at how to scale a business, if you have one offer converting well, then you should repeat that offer and scale it versus pivoting to a whole different offer. I was the person that was always creating new products, new offers, new things, because I was bored and I wanted to do something new.
Yeah. Even though they were still in the fitness space, but they were just different products.
Yeah. So like I think about, for example, one of my friends and we started our business around the same time. My signature product was 7-Day Jumpstart, which is now a book in stores. But I created this product called 7-Day Jumpstart. She created a similar plan, not the same plan, but a similar idea. But instead of it being a one-time sale, mine was a one-time sale, $35. Hers was a monthly recurring $35.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do that. She did. Her business
scaled
250 million.
Yeah, right.
So that's what I mean by that. You focus on one thing and how do you make it better versus selling, constantly looking for new customers.
Yeah, no, actually that's exactly how I've done my coaching, because I actually came from a marketing background before I got into fitness. I have a lot of colleagues that are coaches and stuff, but I see they do challenges, and the next week they're doing group thing, and then they're offering one-on-one coaching, and then they're marketing some supplement line, and they're doing all of these little things. And I'm like, you know what? If you maybe had, I don't know, 5 million followers, you could maybe do that. But I truly believe, singular focus, like Lululemon, make the leggings that make your butt look good, and that's it. Just scale that until you get to a certain level. So we've actually always done one-on-one coaching. We focus on just midlife women. So the majority of our clients are 45 to 65. My oldest client's 80, when she's actually come to our retreats before, which is super fun. She's fabulous. But one of the things I see with that is there's commonality among people when you start to kind of narrow in a little bit, and there's so many people to help in this space. So
if I was giving business advice to somebody, I would absolutely tell them that. However, when you said what advice would you give yourself, I think all of our brains are wired so differently. And if that's going to stomp creativity or hurt, I don't know that I would do it. So I look back and I'm like, would I have done it differently? I guess the logical answer would be say yes, but I don't not like my journey. I like where I've kind of gone with the different things. And I like closing chapters and starting new ones.
Yeah, I think you've done a really great job pivoting as you have evolved as a person, and you're very true and authentic, right?
Because if I think back, if I had scaled one of those things from 15 years ago, I don't know that my heart would be in that right now. I
think that's a big challenge for entrepreneurs, because you still grow as a person, right? That who you were when you created that thing. Like for me, I actually got into the fitness space because I was just an athlete growing up, and I just took an interest in competing. This is before Instagram. People ask me all the time about competing, and I'm like, I honestly was just first trying to get into shape,
Right.
like just having to like toned arms. And then I met a girl who was competing and I was like, can you show me what you're doing? And she kind of like pointed me out and I did a show and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I like didn't even put anything on social media for probably 5 years.
Wow.
You know, because again, we just had Facebook and it was like your friends. And you're like,
Sure.
I'm not going to show them what I'm eating. That's weird. Because I was really self-conscious about it, to be honest. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was kind of figuring it out and I was enjoying it. And I did that for a while before I got all my, like same thing as you, got my certifications and went through all this process. And that's when I realized how many women just were so confused about this space. And I'm like, wow, I'm very introverted. So I'm like, well, if I don't share my stuff, what I'm doing, how could I help people?
Right.
So I have to like spread the wings and get bold and start to post some stuff. And that's when Instagram became a thing. So I started posting there because it felt a little safer, like no one knew me, so I could be somebody else. But at the same time, I didn't get into it to help competitors. I got into it because I was like, wow, I wanted to help other women that like I struggled when I wasn't competing because it was like, how do you eat when you're not getting ready for a competition? Like you want lifestyle, you want to be able to like travel and do things. And so for me, it was all lifestyle. That was really cool. But I'm like, you know what? Competing is not my identity. It's not my life. Like people will ask me about competing, but I'm like not as interested in talking about it as
I get that. Yeah, I get that.
Maybe other people are like so into it now. And I'm like,
That's like if someone says to me, ask me a question about being an influencer. I hate that word, by the way. I hate that word. I'm like, I don't like that word, but it sounds so weird to me. I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, I don't know how to, like when someone says, how do you grow social media or how do you grow, I'm so unattached to that. I just believe that every single person in this world has a story, has a journey, and has something of value to offer. And I think if we can come from a bigger place of authentically sharing what you're walking through and then giving back what you've learned, that's a cool recipe. Like I've had a good, successful business from doing that. It maybe is not the ideal business plan for somebody. Like I get that that's not this specific way to scale or whatever, but it's worked for me. Yeah. It's worked.
I love that. Like I'm so about that because I've had people, you probably had this too, people over the years who want to give you suggestions, do this and do that. And you're like, that just doesn't feel,
with what feels right to you.
Yeah. I think that's like the number one thing. And then you can serve who you want to serve. You can be authentic to you and like evolve.
Yeah, and that's how I've always, just like even with, I think about social media, I go through spurts of feeling creative and wanting to be on there, and then times I don't want to do anything. I don't follow any rule about, you got to do 3 times a day or whatever. Like, I don't feel like it.
I know, I hate those rules. I was just telling Brad the other day that I'm like, based on your account size, they say you should post this many times. And I'm like, honestly, I don't think that people even notice whether I post or not. The only thing that cares is the algorithm.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I feel like I'm just at an age in my life where I don't want to care about an algorithm.
Exactly. I feel like I go in spurts. There's sometimes I'm really focused on things and I'm sharing it, and sometimes I don't want to talk at all. So I don't know. I just follow that.
Well, I love your podcast. I think it's fantastic. And I think that the people that you've had on have been outstanding. And it's just really cool to just see, like, I think when you first started in the space, there wasn't a lot of people who were promoting women in fitness in 40s. And like to see you do that now in your 50s and like sharing sort of a different perspective and giving that a platform, I think is so important because there's so much BS out there. Like we can agree that like getting good information out there. So you guys make sure that you follow Natalie's podcast because she has obviously so much to share and so much history and knowledge and like just very generous with everything. So I think
it's my favorite thing to do because I like asking questions and I love learning. I love going deep on all the topics around midlife.
Yeah, me too. I think it's so great. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you for being on the channel. You guys let us know in the comments if you have questions for Natalie. We'll definitely follow up and get you guys some answers. If you guys want to see anything else next, let me know.